What's happening in Russia now is both horrendously tragic and grandiosely epical. Tragic because Russia is waging the war on Ukraine. It's destroying Ukraine and innocent people die every day. Epical because Russia is quickly destroying itself and transforming into something ugly. And magnitude of this transformation is simply grandiose. The transformation is huge. What I'm seeing right now is huge. This is going to last for a very long time, most likely for multiple generations. Moreover, I don't understand how some cannot notice this quick transformation. They cannot see it happening. It's right in front of our eyes. It's our lives changing. Changes take every day, for goodness sake. Yet, there's a phenomena that is phantasmagorical. Russian people, no, I'm not talking of Russian government. Russian people, regular folks, think that they're not responsible. They think they will not suffer because they're not responsible. They think that their lives will not get worse and they will not be paying anything. So today I would like to explore what the hell is wrong with regular Russian folks. Howdy everyone, my name is Konstantin and welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. You will find here logic, truth, common sense, and some emotions because I'm a human being. You will not find here propaganda, BS, or lies. First things first, a disclaimer. It is a very personal video today. It's purely going to be my thoughts and reflections. Please let me know in the comments below what you think. As a Russian, I am looking for salvation. And your comments really help. So, Russia is collapsing. It's not a question, it's a statement I'm making. It's an easy part to explain of this video, an easy part of this video. It isn't exactly rocket science. Russian economy is quickly being destroyed. There's a chasm quickly growing, unrest in Russian society. The leadership is weak and damaged, and there has been a successful mutiny recently, a precedent for the others. That is a perfect recipe for disaster, and disaster is in the making. I'd like to talk about three things right now. First, who is responsible? Second, who will suffer? And third, who will pay? Why talking about it? I mean, the answers are pretty straightforward, right? Wrong. I answer these questions completely different than most Russian people do. You're gonna be surprised now. Without further ado, let me explain. First, who is responsible? I thought that this question had a very simple answer. Let's apply a little bit of logic. Russia did attack Ukraine in February of 2022, and it wasn't done in secrecy. Russian President Vladimir Putin publicly announced that it was him who made the decision and gave the orders to attack Ukraine, therefore to kill Ukrainian people. Russian president is elected by Russian citizens in a nationwide vote. So all Russian citizens decide who they give the right to represent their interests for some time. There's no czar in Russia, after all. There is elected president, at least on paper. The president has a responsibility to run the country in the best possible way, in the most efficient way to make citizens' lives better. And the president decides to invade a neighboring country to start a war with no good reasons given. It is clearly a catastrophe. Well, the citizens should use all legal constitutional ways to replace the president as soon as possible and say no to this madness. After all, it's their country, their taxes, their constitutional rights, their children's future. And this is what I think. Let me know in the comments if you think otherwise, if you agree with me or not. Well, apparently most Russians don't think the way I do. Oh, listen to this. Most Russians think they have very little power over the government and how the government manages their country, their lives, basically. Therefore, they don't even try to change things. The most commonly used excuse that I've been given hundreds of times from all kinds of people is this: what can we do? And sign. What can we do? What can I do? What can I do? I can't do anything. Well, this is here where it gets interesting. Every time in conversations, after what can I do crap that I was given, I suggested that better do something, or at least try do something, because they're still responsible. This is magical concept they don't understand, but every time they heard it, okay, that they're responsible, and they looked at me and they got angry and they got very aggressive. No, it's not. No, I'm not responsible. It's not my responsibility. I didn't do this. I don't like war. I'm against this war. I don't kill Ukrainians. I didn't give this orders to go and kill people. I didn't order anything. This is not my fault. Well, this is where I stop understanding Russian people. They do not accept responsibility. They feel powerless and rightless. Well, that they're not, but they feel that way. But they think that this, being powerless and rightless, exempts them from being responsible and guilty. They think they're not in control and they can't do much, and that clears them from the crimes that Russia has been committing in Ukraine. It clears them from the blood of Ukrainian people. But it doesn't. It doesn't exempt them from being guilty. It does not wash off blood of their hands. Oh, I think deep down they understand that they're guilty. But not with their brains, but with their hearts right here. Because they understand. Because they get angry when I mention the responsibility. They get mad. And if they didn't understand the concept, they would simply look at me as if I was crazy, okay, and say, hey, he's a nutcase, and they would move on, but they get aggressive and they get mad. It means there are strings buried deep inside under the facade of denial, and I touch those strings, and they resonate. So Russian folks are responsible. I'm not taking responsibility of Putin, his gang, all those who have been supporting, all those who sat in the big room in the Kremlin in front of Putin 2 days prior to the first attack on Ukraine and nodded saying, yes, I agree. They are responsible. They will answer. Make no mistake about it. But regular folks also responsible. By their disinterest in politics, by their inactivity, by them being uninformed, by them going along with the flow, by their lack of activism, regular Russian people have allowed this to happen in the long run. They were chances to change things, every day, fewer and fewer chances and more difficult as Russian government grew and gained strength. But that did not happen overnight. It was not a revolution. It was boiling the frog type of situation. And this is where the most difficult part comes in. And I'm not taking responsibility of myself. I am responsible double that any other Russian citizens are. They didn't know better, although that doesn't take responsibility of them, but I knew better. I knew that things could be different. I have seen things in other countries. I knew the concept of we are the people. I saw the wonders that this concept does. And yet, when I returned to Russia, I was politically inactive. Some say, well, it just happened to be. No. I chose to be politically inactive. I went with the flow, saying to myself, making excuses really, saying, oh, well, this is how Russia is run. This is how things work in Russia. You know, I did nothing. I woke up, but too late. Ukrainians, please forgive me for that. I learned my lesson. To sum up, I say that all Russian citizens are really responsible for what is happening in Ukraine. All Russian citizens have blood on their hands. And of course, they're responsible for the destruction of Russia. But the collapse that is happening, it's the inside matter, okay? It's just between them and for them. But we're really talking about the Ukraine. All are responsible. And those also who are living in bubbles. And speaking of the bubbles, let's move on to number 2, who will suffer. I am absolutely certain that many Russians will suffer a great deal. After the war is over, the Russians will learn the truth. There is no way around it. They will learn. And many will be suffering. You see, I still believe that many Russians are still decent human beings with hearts. And once they understand the truth, once they finally learn the difference between light and darkness, they will start bleeding. They will have normal human reaction, normal human emotions reacting to this atrocity. I am sure at this point that Russians will go on the path that the Germans did starting in 1945. And many Russians will have things like PTSD, depression, guilt syndrome, etc. How do I know? Well, I've been walking on this very same yellow brick road of suffering for the past 16 months. I woke up much earlier than most Russians. They are still sleeping, you know. And I'm not alone. All Russians who escaped and who are Russian, all Russians who are here in Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, in other countries, we are hurting. We're going through the very same thing. We're all suffering. Because you can't not suffer if you understand what's really going on. True remorse is very painful. This is why here in Tashkent I gather Russian refugees to support each other and meet with the Ukrainians to find our salvation. But that's a different story. Before I jump to the third question, who will pay? I'd really appreciate if you press that like button and check out my Telegram channel called Inside Konstantin's Russia. The link will be down below in the description to this video. And if you're wondering how you can support the channel, I wouldn't mind if you buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com or become a patron at patreon.com. I'd like that. Thank you. And moving to the third question, who will pay? The war with Ukraine has a firm price for both Russia and Ukraine. The aftermath, what will be happening in both Ukraine and Russia, will have a firm price. I am telling you as an economist, to simplify, Russian and Ukrainian taxpayers have already been paying for 1. Increased production of weapons, salaries of soldiers, etc. We call this war economy. And number 2, the damages that both countries have already incurred, the loss of human lives, the destruction of infrastructure, houses, and loss of industry, mostly in Ukraine, of course, but not Russia starts getting it too now. And 3, Russia has been paying by its failing economy and international isolation. All that has a firm price tag. So people of Ukraine and Russia have already been paying for this terrible war. But for Russia, the price that has already been paid is fairly insignificant compared to what the price that the country will be paying after the war is over will be. Let's break it down. Number 1, the reparations. Someone's gonna pay for the destruction of Ukraine. And that someone will be, well, that's right, Russia. At least a good part of that payment will come out of Russia. Number two, economic demise and international sanctions. The sanctions aren't gonna disappear when the war is over, like many Russians think. They surprise me so much. Many people in Russia think their lives will return back to normal as soon as the war is over and the international community will open its arms to Russia and Russians at once, right after. The sanctions will be lifted, visas will be granted, the international travel will return. The whole world will simply forget what Russia has done in Ukraine. That's what they think. Most don't understand that they have an indelible mark on their foreheads. Indelible mark right here says Z or V. And those marks will not disappear easily. It'll take decades of true remorse and hard work. Very few people realize that, to my amazement. Very few people understand that if they're over 40, they most likely will not see the end, okay? Not in their lifetime. Number three, people leaving. The Russians who have left the country permanently and will leave permanently, the best of the best, the smartest of the smartest, the cream of the crop, people that should stay inside Russia and be that like a train engine pulling Russia forward into the future. They have left. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that this is a huge economic blow to the country for a long time. It's gonna take generations. So for Russia in the future, there are three major price tags: the reparations, the isolation, and the brain drain. Yet, when I mention this very simple concept to Russian people, they get mad again. No, we will not pay reparations. Of course not. We're not responsible. We aren't the ones who did it. Why do we have to pay? It's not fair. They get so upset when they hear that they hear that they're going to be paying right out of their own pockets. That one guy in Rostov even tried to pick a fist fight with me when I told him that all of us, we will all be paying reparations. Yeah, that's right. Out of our own pockets, increased taxes, fees, special payments, one-time payments, you name it. We will be paying. Again, don't tell it to the Russians because they get mad. I have a very simple analogy. A large, rich company, its shareholders and its management. Russia is a company, a large and extremely rich company. The Russian citizens are the owners, the shareholders, and the Putin and his gang, his government, are the management. So, the management has been doing something incredibly atrocious. Cooking books, evading taxes, outright stealing, bribing, every single possible, imaginable, terrible thing you can name. The management has been doing it. The management is destroying the wonderful rich company. It's a bunch of gangsters, really, at the helm. And the shareholders just sitting there and looking at the whole thing and saying, there's not much we can do. When in reality, they can simply fire the management and hire a new team. It's in their power. Instead, they're sitting there staring at how their wonderful companies falling apart, wonderful countries falling apart. Their future is being destroyed. Their children's future is being destroyed. And yet, no actions. But when you tell them that they're going to be paying in the future for what they're doing right now by being inactive, they deny it and they just get mad. So, there are three main questions. Who is responsible, who will suffer, and who will pay? And the answers are very simple. Us, Russians, all of us are responsible. We all will be suffering for what we have done. At least the ones of us who still have the hearts will be suffering. And we all will be paying for this, no matter what we think. And the responsibility will be heavy, and the suffering will be intense, and the price will be high. This, folks, what happens when politicians gets crooked, when political checks and balances disappear and the government gets out of control, then there's always responsibility, suffering, and the price to pay. Folks, no matter where you live, no matter who you are, no matter what you do, don't let it happen. Don't make your own mistakes. Learn from our own. And if you want to learn more about Russia, of how it was born in 1991 and died in 2022, follow this link right here.